Winning cures everything. Now for your hosts, Gary and Chris.
Welcome in. Winning cures everything. It is Thursday, June the 18th. I'm Gary.
I'm Chris.
And we have got some things that we have got to talk about today. Good gracious. Let me turn down the marching band in the back here. You can find us over at winningcureseverything.com. All of our picks, previews, podcasts, videos, social media platforms. Make sure you are subscribed on all of the different locations here. We're everywhere. We are all over the place. Periscope, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and any of your favorite podcast apps. Make sure you are subscribed on the podcast apps. Of course, Apple Podcast being the biggest one. Make sure you leave a nice 5-star review over there. We would definitely appreciate that. Let me flip that. There we go. All right, so let's dive into this stuff. We're going to go ahead and get in here early. The report that came out earlier today, Dr. Anthony Fauci said that football teams would need to emulate plans by the NBA and MLS for a bubble format or consider not playing in 2020 because of the pandemic. Now, here's a little background on him. For those that don't know, if you've been living under a rock for however long, Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and a key member of the White House task force on the virus, he told CNN that football players would need to be isolated from others and tested regularly. He said, unless players are essentially in a bubble, insulated from the community, and they are tested nearly every day, it would be very hard to see how football is able to be played this fall. If there is a second wave, which is certainly a possibility, and which would be complicated by the predictable flu season, football may not happen this year. Now, I think that it is time. Now, I'm not disagreeing with anything that he is saying. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not whatever. But I think they need to toss up a different voice at this point because of all of the back and forth, every side of an argument that he has been on. I don't know whether to trust this guy anymore. Like, am I nuts for this? You help me out here. What are your thoughts on this when you heard it?
I don't. It's not that I don't trust him. I think he's a trustworthy person, and I think that he's an honorable person, and he's doing the best he can. I think he gets new information all the time, which changes his opinion. And I think that's important for a person to be, is somebody who can change their mind when they get new information. Okay. I think that is important. I also believe that this is one person's who is a very large voice in the room.
Very educated, very knowledgeable.
Yes,
he has become the face of this pandemic.
That's his voice, and the 32 owners are not going to see that. And I wonder, no way on earth that in the NFL, now I don't know how colleges deal with this stuff, okay? College campuses are way different. But in a league that is ruled by 32 men, they are going to do what they see fit.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is a recommendation. Recommendation has been duly noted. That could change between now and September or October or August or whenever, because we know that new information is constantly coming up and this thing is continuously evolving. That's fine. Right now, today, he feels that way. I brought this up the other day, how when we talked about baseball and his thoughts on baseball, and he says baseball season has to be done by October or else they might as well not have a season. And I thought, well, if baseball season has to be done by October, what the hell are we doing with football and basketball? Why does he single out baseball? I found that to be very interesting. Well, now he's addressed football. He works as if basketball season, because it's going to start soon, won't be affected in October. Basketball season is going to start in October. which they might push the start date back. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
but it
they're
ain't going to
push
be a
back
whole year. It's not going to be 6 months.
It'll be December.
They don't start in October. They'll start in November. They'll start in December. And all of this stuff is the exact same.
Yeah.
So my thought is I do think he's respected. I think he's fine. I don't know anybody else's voice in the room is going to be different, Gary, because they're all pulling from bad information. I have already made up my mind that nobody even has good information because the people, the originators of the information, are falsely documenting the information for financial reasons.
Yeah.
And because of the way we've done things, they are incentivized to. I don't even blame them for doing it.
Michael jumps in on the chat. I didn't know that the chat was working today.
I was about to say, we worked on the impression we weren't going to have a chat today because
Restream has been having problems.
We got notifications that it was down.
Yeah, but Twitch apparently is working. Michael said, "What's up, fellas?" He said, "Fauci is back at it again. I'm sick of hearing him." And no,
I'm not hating on. Listen, we're not sick of hearing him. I'm fine with that. I don't care. I'm not hating on him. I genuinely believe he's trying to do the best he can with the information he has. But we have set ourselves up for getting bad information.
Here's my issue with having Fauci come out and deliver something like this, right? You've got the situation back early in this where he was telling people not to wear masks, and then he told them to wear masks. And his reasoning was that there was a shortage of masks, so he told people not to worry about wearing them, right? Like that. That's a little I feel weird about that. Then he's got where he was telling people that we need to reopen, but he was also telling people within the same week that we need to stay closed. Just a ton of back and forth that, and I understand being able to walk back on something when you get new information. I get that. But I think that it kind of drives the general public insane, and you need somebody else that is a respected voice. Now, Fauci is famous, like mega famous at this point because of this.
Herein lies the problem, Gary. Define respected voice.
That's
because the left is going to find their respected voice and the right is going to find their respected voice. And the one thing that we all thought before this whole thing started was Fauci was not a leftist or a rightist, and he was just a scientist and a doctor.
Yeah, and I think maybe he's talking to too many news sources. Like that's just my premise on it.
It could be a thing where he's always placating to his audience.
Yeah, I think that maybe he just needs to sit back and not give out so much information.
Well, we haven't heard from him in a while. It's not as if he's given a tons of information.
He's still been talking, but it's just not been sports related. So it's different stuff, but yeah, like he did say that we needed to. I mean, it was just a couple of weeks ago that he was saying that we need to reopen schools. Yes. And
that's a couple of weeks ago. We went from him talking every day to now he talks, every week and a half, every 10 days we hear from him.
Yeah, he said yesterday that he had not spoken to Donald Trump in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So. Is what it is. Michael says, I can't read what he said. Hold on. I'll see if I can pull it up. But he's got a long one on there, and it's a small thing. My Restream connection is not working. So I don't know what's going on there. But we'll figure it out. We'll get there.
I don't know what this means for colleges, though. The colleges, the presidents, and universities are going to listen to things differently than the NFL is, and that could greatly affect college athletics.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Michael, here we go, said, doctors are always going to be overly cautious to cover their ass. Their recommendations are rarely realistic. How often does a doctor say after surgery you can't go back to work for 6 months, when in reality people have bills to pay and have to go back ASAP? Well, how to tackle this one? The truth be told, yes, I think a doctor would need to tell you 6 months. And that is definitely cover their ass kind of stuff. But I think like they're giving you the most real information that they can. Like, hey, it would be best for you to stay off your feet for however long, right? So in this instance, he's saying it would be best for you to test every day and to kind of seclude yourself away from everybody else, right? And yes, obviously that makes sense in this situation. But I mean, how realistic is it? Like, I think that's what Michael was saying. It's not realistic. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm tired of it, but I also understand it, and then we'll just see. I mean, at this point, it's a crapshoot. So, I'll take my chances though. I think we're gonna have football. I think everything's gonna be just fine. We're gonna have COVID cases. We're gonna have all of that. It's gonna be weird, but we're gonna have football, and that's all I'm looking forward to. That's what I want, and I think we're gonna get it. With that said, let's talk about the future for a little bit. Alabama and Ohio State have scheduled a home-and-home for 2027 and 2028. It is the first non-neutral site matchup between these two. The rest have all been bowl games. And a regular season matchup between these two, pretty big deal. And this continues a trend of big-time colleges scheduling games against each other. Now, Alabama has got a ton of them coming up, and then LSU as well. Alabama's got USC this season, Miami next year. Then they've got at Texas at home the next year, at Wisconsin at home, along with at Florida State in 2025, at West Virginia and Florida State in 2026, West Virginia at Ohio State in 2027. 2028, they got at Notre Dame and Ohio State, and on and on and on. They got Oklahoma, they got Virginia Tech later on down the line, Arizona. LSU, in that same season, on the same date that Alabama goes to Ohio State, LSU signed a contract with Oklahoma back in 2005, and they are not playing the game until 2027, and that one will be at Oklahoma. So LSU at Oklahoma, Alabama at Ohio State in 2027. Georgia has got a bunch coming up. Like, LSU's got a home-and-home against Clemson that's coming up. They've got a home-and-home with, UCLA. They've got 2 games against Florida State that are going to be in neutral sites in 2022 and 2023. Georgia has got home-and-homes with Clemson, with Texas, with Ohio State, with Oklahoma. I mean, all kinds of different stuff. So, big-time athletics. Hey, interesting matchup that's coming up next season, by the way. Did you know Auburn has a home-and-home with Penn State next year and the year after?
I didn't know that. Fun
matchup. Really fun matchup. So, yeah, there's a lot of big-time games, and I think you can point this to the idea that the college football playoff is going to expand. Like, these teams would not be scheduling these games if they did not believe what the main reason is. You need fans to want a reason to come to the games, right? Like, sitting at home, like you and I understand this maybe better than most people. A good HD TV and your recliner is the perfect setup for a college football Saturday.
Yep.
You don't need to go to
too many games. There's too many games.
Yeah.
And if one game is just a terrible game and you went to it and you're stuck there, and then the best game of the weekend, maybe of the year, is going on another channel, and you're sitting in a stadium and all you're doing is getting texts from other people watching it, talking about how awesome it is. It's a terrible feeling.
Yes. The Brown Yeti said, so it's after Nick is done. Yeah, more than likely.
Well, that was my thought. Okay, so my question is this. You believe that Saban will be retired by then. I think Saban will be retired by then. Will Ryan Day still be there? Will either of these coaches still be there?
That's an interesting question. I think Ryan Day, like, if he wants to be, I think he will be there because I think he is a fantastic head coach.
I do too, but
he's super young.
Will he be there? Because it's not like they've had many coaches last 10 years.
This is true. I mean, Woody lasted for a while. Tressel lasted for a while.
Come on now. We got to stop bringing up 50 years ago shit. Nobody does that anymore. Go with like the last 15 years.
Well, Tressel lasted for, like, Urban lasted, 8 years?
Tressel
7 years?
did not last that long, I don't think.
Tressel was there from 01 to, no, maybe it was like a decade. But that ain't great. So,
we need Ryan Day to last 10 years.
I think Ryan Day is young, and I think if his offense continues to be as awesome as it was last year, I think he could end up being an NFL coach. But
I do too. This is why I brought that up. Jim Tressel was there for 9 years.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
Ryan Day's been there for 2, so we will need him to be there for 10 years for this to happen.
I'm going to say yeah.
College coaches just don't last that long in a lot of places.
No, you're right. I think
a decade's a long time in the college football world.
I think he will be because they are the top of the class in the Big Ten. Like Nick Saban has been at Alabama since 2007, so 13 seasons. I think Ryan Day will be there as long as he wants to be, and I think that
we gotta hope that a couple of things need to happen. First, he's got to stay out of trouble because Ohio State is one school that will fire you for trouble.
Yeah,
they fired Jim Tressel for what seems to be a pretty minor thing.
Now the NCAA made it a major thing, but it was.
But that's ridiculous,
yeah.
And they should go shove it.
The Urban Meyer thing, he retired, but that's because the relationship.
We think there was a whole lot of shoehorn in that retirement. And you got, so let's say everybody starts getting paid. Let's say the name, image, likeness thing comes to light, and now everybody in the Big Ten is able to start paying folks. Is now Ohio State able to dominate recruiting? Because I do believe Ohio State recruits differently than everyone else in the Big Ten.
Yes.
You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
I think they got mega wallets, and the other folks have just okay wallets.
Ohio State is SEC North.
Yes.
Is what they are.
Yes.
And they are the preeminent university up there. Like at the preeminent college football program, let's say that.
Yes,
and of course,
but that is because the budget is so much bigger than everyone else's in the recruiting world.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
So
is.
my question is when all of those things become level playing field, if that happens.
Hey, the Brown Yeti said, "Don't get beat by Michigan, and he'll be there." Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's everybody. Michael said Texas having. This is a little different topic. We can go on and jump on this one. He said Texas had 13 players test positive for COVID after voluntary workouts. Do you think it affects anything? I think Schefter reported it. Yeah, that's true. You're going to have some schools that have, up to 20. You're going to have, all kind of different stuff. I mean, they've been going out doing these marches and protests and everything. The biggest thing is it doesn't really affect younger, healthy.
They need to isolate themselves. They need to be monitored and watched to make sure it doesn't develop into anything dangerous. And then after 14 days, get back out there and mix it back up.
You got it.
This is not right. Like, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how to fix it, but we have enough information as to what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. You test positive for it. Lock them away, watch them, monitor them, and when they're clear, put them back to work. Like, this is not that complicated of a situation.
And then they have found out that if you have the antibodies, you don't catch it as easily the second go round.
Yeah, we think the body fights it off pretty good.
So
and
at that point,
for a fact, but this is just one of those things where until it becomes dangerous, then that's when we worry.
Yeah, like we're not worried about it right now.
Crazy dangerous. It was insanely dangerous, and now, for some reason that I don't know how to explain, it's not killing people the way it was.
Well, no, because now we're keeping it out of nursing homes and whatever else. It's just the fact of the matter. At first, like Florida is a good example of this. In the state, their median age of a person that caught COVID-19 to start with in that first month was like 70, like late 70s. And now the median age of somebody that catches it is 37.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big difference as to why there's so many less or so few hospitalizations and so few deaths, right? Yeah. So the healthier you are, the younger you are, the more you are able to fight this disease. So, yeah, it's just like anything. It's just any other sickness. Not just any other, but you get the point. Michael said, I just worry about people being behind desks, panicking and canceling things when they see numbers like this. And we know it's going away, so let's not get gun shy. Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's not going away.
That's what I worry about with colleges, because there's enough people sitting behind desk that that would placate to fear or not be willing to take chances or anything of that nature. And I get it and I understand it. I think pro sports are going to find a way to go forward.
Yes.
Well, everybody but baseball, but that has nothing to do with COVID. That is two perpetuant children with their heads up their asses.
Yes. And I was trying to stay away from that for today.
That's fine.
But we'll dive back into it before the weekend because I'm sure we'll have something else come out because
there's nothing to get into. We don't like I said, call me when they settle.
Yeah. Yeah. Which maybe never. I know the MLBPA tossed in 70 games, they recounted with them or whatever, but I don't know. Anyway, let's dive into this next one here. The bowl series, the bowl season is going to see a new game. And I'm kind of excited about it. The Belk Bowl is no more. The game that's in Charlotte every year pits an ACC team against the SEC team. It is not the Belk Bowl anymore. As of today, it is officially the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Now, what was your thoughts when you first saw this today?
Threw up a little in my mouth.
Not a big Mayo fan?
No.
See, I like Mayo.
Dan Wetzel and I could be tied at the hip on this one, okay? Big Mayo is more powerful than people give them credit. I don't know when the hell somebody thought it was just appropriate to smear mayonnaise over every damn sandwich.
I don't put it on every sandwich, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but I enjoy it on a good turkey sandwich or something like that. I'll put it on a hamburger here and there. But yeah, I see where you're coming from because some people go way crazy with it. It says the Duke's Mayo Classic will feature Notre Dame against Wake Forest on September 26th this year. So they've got the neutral site game that they typically do. Remember they had North Carolina and South Carolina last year, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, this is they're changing up the teams that are going to be in it. We talked about this way back in, I think, February. It is going to be the ACC, or it will be a matchup between teams from the ACC and the Big Ten this year. Next year will be the SEC, and then it rotates Big Ten, SEC against an ACC team every year going forward. And I think that contract is 8 years or something like that. But yeah, we've got the Duke's Mayo Bowl. It's a little strange. So with that, I wanted to bring up some other weird bowl names that Jason Kirk talked about today on his Twitter, and I'll go on and read you the list, and you can stop me and comment when you want to. Number one was the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl.
No, that's gone also, right?
Yep, yeah, that's gone. The Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl, which I
don't
think
know
is
what
still.
That is.
I think it's still going. The Bahamas Bowl was like.
No, I know the Bahamas Bowl is. What is Makers Wanted?
That's a town in Indiana, I want to say.
So hang on, a town in Indiana,
yes.
A bowl game
in the Bahamas.
Their taxpayers were okay with this?
Yeah. Really weird.
Are we sure they're okay with this, or they just do it and just say screw them because that's what a lot of government officials do?
You got me. I don't know, but Makers Wanted is a town. I think it's in Indiana. It might be Illinois. I don't remember. But yeah, it's a town.
I'm gonna need Leslie Nope on that.
It was number 3, the Poulin Weed Eater Independence Bowl, which is no longer, but
all the yard equipment is getting bounced.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So, but the Weed Whacker Bowl is what we used to call it, and yeah, I mean that's still such a fantastic name. We used to make so much fun of the Independence Bowl. Number 4, the Magic Jack Beef O'Brady's Bitcoin Bowl, that was down in Florida.
Those were all the different things. It wasn't ever called that at once, right?
No. It was the Magic Jack Bowl, then it was the Beef O'Brady's Bowl, then it was the Bitcoin Bowl.
Has anything ever came into popularity and went out of popularity as quick as the Magic Jack did?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that lasted, what, about 6 months?
I mean, I remember seeing a commercial for it and then wondering, you're using the internet to hook up an old school wall mounted telephone. Okay. Yeah. That's not going to work in the world in which I live in, but Knock yourself out, Granny.
Yep. Magic Jack VoIP phone service. And they are still, you can still buy stuff from them.
Jesus.
That
Old
is
blue
unbelievable.
hairs galore.
So that number 4 there was actually 4, 5, and 6. Number 7 is the Battle Frog Fiesta Bowl. That did not last long. Do you even remember what Battle Frog is?
It sounds like a sunblock.
I don't think that's it.
Okay, then I don't know.
I don't think that's it. I think Battle Frog.
I'm trying to Google here.
Yeah, it's Battle Frog was. Well, you know what? I don't know what Battle Frog is. Oh, I want to say it was like the Tough Man contest or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's some type of Iron Man type competition.
That is some
It's
kind
a
of
television show. One season lasted 3 episodes.
The Battle Frog series in 2015, and then in 2016 they canceled all their races. So I guess they thought it would take off, but it did not. Number 8 was the Duck Commander Independence Bowl. Yeah, that's back when Duck Dynasty was going on, right?
Yep, it was good Shreveport folks.
Oh yeah, the
local people.
Hey, this one is still going. The Cherubundi Tart Cherry Boca Raton Bowl. Interesting. That's a yogurt. Pretty good. I've tried it. Number 10 is the
Raton yogurt. That sounds about right.
Yeah, the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Yeah, I can get down with it. And then finally, number 11, they've got Duke's Mayo Bowl. And then he said, also, mayo sucks, and I'm glad it has supplanted vanilla as the official food metaphor for boring. I love this stuff.
Disgusting.
I love it. All right, let's jump off of that one. Now, yesterday, we went back into, well, no, I guess we went into the future. And then we came back into real life, and now we're going back into the future again. So let's discuss the SEC East coaches in 5 years from now. 2025, what will the SEC Eastern Division coaches look like? And we'll start off with Florida. You want me to go ahead and start?
Yeah.
This is a very pivotal year, a lot of people say, for Dan Mullen, right? If he doesn't get it done this year, when is he going to get it done, et cetera, et cetera. Look, they won 11 games last year.
I was just about to say, anybody who says that is an idiot.
I don't think it is that important that you beat Georgia this season. He's going into his 3rd year. He took a team that was 4-8 and won 10 games with them in his first season. So
then won 11 the next year.
Yes.
You think it's your God-given birthright to win 10 games every year, it's not going to work out well for you.
I think Mullen is going to be just fine. I think he's going to stay at Florida. I think that is a destination kind of gig for him. I think in 5 years he will still be there competing for SEC East championships and probably national championships.
I completely agree with that. 100%. I like making fun of Dan because he is goofy and funny and weird, but I make fun of him because I like him. I do like him a lot.
That's a 8. I completely forgot. Let's see. The Brown Yeti said, no, Matt jumped in. YouTube is working now. I don't know what the hell's going on with this chat. He said there's a difference between catching and dying. Asymptomatic people are not dying. The Brown Yeti asked if it was still ACC versus SEC. Michael said Mayo over Miracle Whip. Yeah, I could agree with that. And Brown Yeti said WCE Murder Hornets Bowl. I think we can pull it together. And Matt said, I agree with the Murder Hornets Bowl. Yeah.
Listen, I got $200 right now. I'll buy one of those bowls.
I can get down with it. All right. So we went through Dan Mullen. Let's jump into Georgia. I think Kirby Smart will still be the coach at Georgia in 5 years. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he may go through a couple more offensive coordinators between now and then. But the way that he is building that thing, I don't think there's any reason for him to go anywhere.
That doesn't make any sense. Hang on. You think they're going to have more talent in the future than they've had in the past 2 to 3 years?
No, because I think they'll continue to get that.
That's not possible for them to have more talent than they've had the last 3 or 4 years.
I'm not sure what I said to make you think that
You said he's the way he's building that thing, as if it's not already built.
Well, they haven't won a title yet, so they're
No,
still.
And you know why they haven't won a title? Because Kirby Smart is their head coach. You have the lead that they had in the national championship game against Alabama. A good coach, a great coach doesn't lose that game. Okay?
Yeah.
In the playoff game in which you had to face Alabama and you make the bumbling mistakes while you're dominating them once again for the first half, a great coach doesn't – he lost those games. Those players didn't lose those games. The other coaches didn't lose those games. He makes decisions that cost his team games, and he will every game. He's going to do it every game.
So where do you think he will be in 5 years?
I don't know, but he will be fired. Because at some point in time, the talent is not going to win 10 games a year, and they are going to see how much they are spending. They are going to see what they are getting for it. And every time he got close, he cocked it up.
I mean, I can't really argue with you.
I don't foresee that. I think Florida is getting better. I think Tennessee is getting better. Okay. So at some point in time, they're going to finish in 5 years. At some point in time, they're going to finish third in that division. And when that happens, that will not go over well.
I mean, they let Mark Richt, but they weren't putting as much into the program, I guess.
Not close to the amount in the program. Also, Mark Richt was an exceptional human being. I do not believe Kirby to be that.
Yeah, you might have a point. Okay. I see where you're coming from.
Now, these are a lot of my biases of just not liking him coming out, and I just don't see how he recruits the way he recruits outside of the fact that I understand that a large sums of money is involved. There's no way that guy could walk into my living room and convince me to want to go play for him.
I can't disagree with anything that you're saying. My thought process is they will never be bad enough that he will be fired within the next 5 years.
Come in third 2 years in a row in the East and see if they don't throw his ass to the curb.
I mean, we'll see.
Call Les Miles and ask what happens when you come in third one time. One time.
He came in third multiple times, didn't he?
Not once they got to the national championship level.
I mean, I guess
he won a title, made it back to a title, never really came in third, always either beat Bama or never really Bama, but consistently beat Auburn.
Yeah.
And if they didn't beat Auburn, Auburn lost to somebody else a couple of times to where it didn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got a point.
Come in third 2 years in a row and see what happens.
I think Kirby will still be there. You obviously disagree, and that is okay. Let's jump on to Kentucky. Mark Stoops. He's already been there for, 7 seasons now? 6 seasons?
For a while.
A good little while. I believe that he is going to get a bigger job somewhere else. I don't know where.
Somebody's calling him.
You know, I think had he been offered Florida State, had the timing been right, I think he would have taken that gig. But I think there's a multitude of jobs that are bigger than Kentucky that he will probably go to eventually. Yep. So that he will have a shot at winning a championship. I think that is important.
I believe we're going to see a lot of changeover in the ACC over the next year or two. And I think he's going to be being on that side of the SEC and in Kentucky. I think there are a lot of ACC schools that know him well, know his resume well, and will be calling him. And
they're going to have to pay him. They're going to have to pay him a ton.
Yeah, but all those schools have money.
Yeah, it's just because the ACC does not pay like the SEC.
But they've got money. And I think a lot of them are going to start. I think a lot of athletic directors are realizing, $3 million ain't going to cut it anymore.
It ain't working for us. So, I could see, this may be crazy. Like, Mac Brown could be leaving in a few years.
Yeah, he's not – Mac Brown can't be there forever. We're talking 5 years from now.
So, is North Carolina a bigger job than Kentucky?
Yes.
I think it is. I think you get better
you're
talent.
In the ACC and you're out of the SEC. That's the biggest thing. Let me tell you another thing that I could see happening. Old Lincoln might not last forever at Oklahoma as soon as the NFL just continues to beat down that door.
That's true.
And I could see them saying, well, one Stoops was pretty good before. Let's call another one.
That's true. Let's call another one.
That's a big boy job there.
Yes, it certainly is.
That's a hoss of a job.
I know that you don't like to talk about who might take over the job, but I've got a couple of names.
It's just impossible to do.
I know, but it's still fun. I mean, it's impossible to figure out what these teams are going to do in 5 years. But
no, it's not. You can definitely predict the trajectory of an individual. But
okay,
to predict who's going to take that over, you're talking about there's 49 coaches out in the college football world. There might be a head coach, some quarterbacks coach that's never even put a headset on before.
That could end up being
5 years.
Yeah. Could
be the next hot shit that Kentucky goes and gets.
Yeah, no, that's true. Sean Lewis is a name to pay attention to there. Kent State coach, coached under Dino Babers. He's got that offense down. He knows how to lead teams. I think he'd be a lot of fun at Kentucky. So
I say the next coach at Kentucky is going to be whoever the quarterback's coach at Mississippi State is.
You think so?
I don't know. I don't know who the hell he is, but they're going to go get an air raid guy.
And that's what Sean Lewis is. But
yeah. you're putting a name to it, and I'm just guessing some guy that we've never heard of before.
Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz. I don't know what to think of this. He's a first-time coach, or first-year coach here. It's only his second year coaching. He went 13-1 at App State with a team that Scott Satterfield, he took
over a monster team, yes. and that's a golden ticket that has paid off pretty well.
Yes,
that contract is sweet.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't know what to make of this guy. I don't think that Missouri is built as well as App State was last year. We don't know if he can recruit. We don't know if he obviously he's been with some great coaches. He coached under Malzahn he's from that Malzahn tree. He has gotten it done in places that don't typically get it done before, right? So he has had success at App State. He's had success at Boise State. Now, these are both places that have built up a winning tradition, but you're still able to get players and still able to kind of dominate in those spots. I don't know that Missouri is set up the same way as those. If I had to guess, I think he will still be there in 5 years, but is there any real way to know?
I think this is too big of a job for him based on his resume. He's just not prepared for SEC. I mean, we saw this at Arkansas. You go get a young guy who looks awesome, and he's done great at a smaller school and dropping balls deep in the SEC. You can do that in the ACC. You can do that in the Big 12. You can do that sometimes in the Big 10. You can definitely do it in the Pac-12. That doesn't work in the SEC. That just doesn't work.
Not always.
Especially at a school in which they don't put large sums of resources in recruiting.
That's the biggest thing.
In their facilities. You're not getting you are bringing a staff with you that is inexperienced in the SEC, trying to recruit in a state in which you have no local homegrown talent whatsoever. You're getting the slums that didn't go to the Big 12 and the Big 10. That's not going to work in the SEC. I think this guy is set up for failure.
We've seen in the past, James Franklin came into Vanderbilt, right?
Yes.
And did magnificent things. He was Maryland's offensive coordinator for years under Ralph Friedgen, came down here.
Those are rare things to happen.
And that's what I was going to say is it is rare because Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida were all down at the same time,
right? And
he was able to take advantage of that. And
it took a very unique situation.
And we don't have
all the stars and the moons to align to make that happen. Tennessee's on the rise. Georgia's at the top of the heap. Florida is right there. Your cross rival is A&M. That is no joke.
Well, their cross rival is Arkansas, so that's reasonable. Yeah, Missouri.
I thought when them and A&M came in together, they were just cross rivals.
No. It's Arkansas and Missouri and A&M and South Carolina.
Oh, well then South Carolina got the short end of that stick, didn't they?
You got that right.
Jesus Christ. Let's rotate Arkansas off and let's get A&M. Thanks.
There you go. The Brown Yeti said, and you're one of the bottom 4 teams in the SEC. that definitely hurts. Damian Estrada jumped in. He said, what about Mike Singletary coaching in the SEC since nobody wants to hire him in the NFL?
Can he recruit?
Yeah, and not really a lot of ties down there, you know. Matt Miller jumped in. Hiring a coach from a place that just got their coach poached is never good because he inherited the previous coach's success and players. Yeah, we were all surprised at the Drinkwind
If
time.
he was at App State 2 years and ran it back twice, I would feel a lot better about this. But, man, I could be wrong. He could be the second coming of Scott Satterfield, and we just all are wrong. That's fine. I'm willing to be wrong, but I'm going to take my chances with this ain't going to work out.
Yeah, I can understand it. Let's go ahead and dive into South Carolina. I think Muschamp will probably be gone very soon, really. I don't think he can get that offensive side of the ball fixed. When you are playing Georgia, Florida, and Clemson every year, and Texas A&M
every year. Jesus, how did I not realize that? I pay close attention to South Carolina.
Those four alone, and you've got Tennessee coming up, and you've still got to play Kentucky every year, and South Carolina has had miserable success against Kentucky. Like, you got to be able to win, and I don't think 6 wins a year.
Can anybody win in South Carolina?
I mean, Spurrier did, but I don't know if anybody can now because that was another one of those situations where Georgia and Florida were down, you know?
Pretty unique situation.
And so now that you've got the big wigs back on the up and up and everybody's spending money.
Spurrier's only real tip of the cap in that era was dominating Clemson.
Yes. I mean, he won 5 straight, and then Dabo got that thing rolling. So he also beat Georgia.
Well, they were rolling pretty good, and he still went in there and beat them a couple times.
Yeah. I mean, look.
That's what kept them out of the national championship conversation.
I will say this.
Was losses to South Carolina.
South Carolina will never again have 3 straight years where they were ranked in the top 10. That's just not going to happen.
No.
And so, but I think there are expectations there that they should at least be competing, for better bowl games and whatnot. Like if Muschamp was going 8-4 every year, then or even 7-5, with a few 8-4s, 9-3s thrown in there, like he would be fine.
Every 4 years you need to fight for 10 wins.
Yeah,
I mean that's the bare minimum expectation of most coaches in the SEC is every 4 years you need to if you're an Ole Miss, if you're a Mississippi State, if every 4 years you can give me a beat your rival and a 10-win season, almost everybody that's not those top tier teams will be fine with that.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Never go below 6-6 and beat the rival as much as you can. And every 4 years, give us a 10-win season. We're all okay.
I know that you hate this. I think Will Healy is going to be the next coach of South Carolina. Like, I'm convinced. He's the coach at Charlotte now. He was the coach at Austin Peay. Young guy, I think he's got ties there. I think he will eventually be able to kill it at South Carolina. And by kill it, I'm talking about what we just talked about for Muschamp, right? What would be a good expectation? I think Healy would be able to do that. So, but we'll see. We'll see. So, you think that Muschamp will be gone as well, right?
No, I don't know. I kind of want to lean more towards he can make this thing last. Mainly because I think the expectations at South Carolina are changing. I think they're far enough removed from Spurrier to really believe they're fighting for SEC title games.
You might be right.
And I think once your expectation changes, then listen, a lot of it's going to depend on what it's going to cost to fire him. South Carolina is not a rich school.
That's true.
Now, if he's on the last year of a deal, then yeah, I could see him doing that. Or maybe 1 year, like I could see him do that. This is not going to be a situation where he's got 3 years and they're going to be paying 2 coaches for 3 years. That's just not going to happen in South Carolina. They don't have the deep. They've got an incredible fan base, but they do not piss money away.
No, you got a good point.
This is a team that went winless and brought their coach back.
In December, the state reported that South Carolina, Will Muschamp allowed them to cut his buyout. That is interesting. I don't know why you would ever do that. So South Carolina football coach Will Muschamp gave up money to secure a raise for one of his most successful assistants. It means the Gamecocks.
Dude, that's big. Dude, man, I'll tell you this. I'd keep a guy just for that.
Yeah, you got that right.
It's called loyalty. That's called trusting yourself. That's called trusting your staff.
Let's see. This was just
now, I like South Carolina. I'm prone to want good things for them. But at the end of the day, I don't care where that happens at. You've got a head coach that says, you know what? I'm going to make myself more vulnerable to being fired to make sure these other guys get paid.
It means the Gamecocks coach will forego raises and his buyout will be cut by several $1 million. Figures released by the school Tuesday when the Board of Trustees approved the amendments and Mike Bobo's contract gave running backs coach Thomas Brown a raise from $300,000 to $500,000 a year and had his deal extended through 2021. It also took out Muschamp's annual $200,000 raise that was built into his contract. His salary will settle at $4.4 million a year, and it takes $3 million off the life of the contract. The buyout had been projected to be $15.58 million as of December 1st, 2020. That sets the new buyout at $13.475 on December 1st, 2020. So yeah, he's got like 3 or 4 more years left on his deal. He's got a while. But
I'm going to tell you, just because he's willing to do stuff like that, and this is not a COVID thing where we got to save money for the school and everybody's hemorrhaging money. This is, I got to take care of my guys.
Yeah.
This is, I'm willing to make myself more vulnerable to make sure these men that work under me are taken care of. That kind of stuff carries a lot of water with me, man. It just always has.
I can understand it.
You know how I felt. I'm very uneasy about the Ed Orgeron hire at LSU. Okay. Yeah. Didn't really know how to feel about it. All right. And then I saw he took a very small deal to start off with. And the reason he was willing to work for so little is not because he didn't think he was qualified to be paid more. It was to make sure his assistant coaches were highly compensated and they didn't lose anybody. And those guys not just didn't lose anybody, but had security in the job that they had. That stuff goes a long way with me, man. You got to make sure your people are paid and taken care of because you're only as good as them. Okay.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree.
So that makes me like Coach Boom a lot more. He's going to be there.
Tennessee. I think this is a no-brainer. I think Jeremy Pruitt will be there.
In 5 years, Jeremy Pruitt will win the East at least once.
I can believe it. Yeah. I think he's exactly what they need there.
And he'll continually compete with Florida and Georgia in the next 2 years for that number 1 spot in the East.
I think this year might be a little early.
That's what I said. In the next 2 years.
Oh, in the next 2 years. Oh, I thought you were saying like for the next 2 years.
No, so. In 2 years, the next 3 of those 5, he'll win 1, and he'll be right there, game half, just like Alabama, Auburn, LSU. Just it'll be a weird ass round robin of who's going to get this. And I'll tell you the one nice thing about this, it sucks that Tennessee has to play Alabama every year. But the other 2 schools in that division, none of them have a lackey. Florida has to play LSU. Georgia has to play Auburn. And it's the same in the West. At least all 3 of the big dogs that kind of always compete have a pretty good bite at it. So now I'm a little upset because we got a 4th big dog in A&M that is a sleeping giant, and they get South Carolina.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yeah, no, you're right. But would it be any different if it was Missouri?
No, it wouldn't be any different if it was Missouri. It's the same concept.
Yeah,
the East has right now Tennessee is head and shoulders beneath Florida and Georgia. Yes. Okay, which is why Auburn and LSU fans have hated things for so long as Alabama gets a gimme W every year from the East, and we got to fight like hell for our win. I don't believe that's going to be the same forever. I think so Pruitt's got those things going. You know how I feel about him. I don't like him as a dude at all. I think this guy is an asshole and a prick, but I do think he can coach.
Yes, I agree with you. I think Pruitt is a fantastic recruiter, a fantastic coach, a fantastic leader. So I think he's going to be just fine. He'll be there in 5 years. Vanderbilt. I think Derek Mason could be gone as soon as – it probably won't be this year because of all the the pandemic situation and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think the first chance they get, he's probably gone.
I think last year he's gone if he doesn't pull off that monster win.
What monster win was that?
Oh, what was it? Oh, God, dang it. He gave like that awesome speech where everybody was just like, holy shit, Derek Mason's back.
Oh, it was Missouri.
I'm the coach of this school. I'm the best man for this job. I mean, I was pumped. I remember nothing of that game. I watched zero of it. All I caught was on Twitter the post game and his fire, and I was like, they ain't firing that guy this year, baby.
It was Missouri, and
that was after beating Missouri.
Yeah, because Missouri had won like 5 straight games up to that point, and they ended up winning that game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. They were on a roll.
And then after that, like, because let's see, they lost to Georgia, they lost to Purdue, they lost to LSU, they barely beat Northern Illinois, they got stomped by Ole Miss, they got massacred at home by UNLV.
Yeah, and then the UNLV one was rough.
Yeah, and then they turned around the next week and beat Missouri, who had won 5 straight games.
Yeah, and it was a pretty great finish, I believe, which is why it was as pumped as it was on the sidelines.
Yep,
that interview.
And then the only game that Vanderbilt won for the rest of the season was against East Tennessee State.
Yeah.
So more than likely, like, had we not had all this stuff going on this
year, Missouri doesn't, because COVID didn't happen in December. If he doesn't beat Missouri, he's fired before bowl season.
Yeah.
As soon as Game 12 is over, here's the papers. Thanks for the work, and we appreciate it.
Yep.
But you're right. I think every coach, for the most part, unless you're a big time program, everybody's going to get a little bit of leeway, a little bit more room in 2020.
Yes, 100%. So I think he's probably gone after 2021.
I do too.
Name that I would love to see there that I think will take the job, Tony Elliott, who is the offensive coordinator at Clemson. He's been the co-offensive coordinator of the running backs coach. I think he would be a fantastic fit.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think Vanderbilt should ever try to get like a triple option type person there? Somebody who runs a gimmick offense that is really hard to compete with week in and week out. So when you only have 1 week to prepare for Vanderbilt, they could somehow sneak up and beat somebody, because they're just never going to be able to line up across the boards and hang with the SEC the way recruiting, ACT scores, the quality of student athlete they have to get in there would work. Should they go to the military schools and grab, one of those coaches? Because that's what I would do if I was that athletic director, by the way.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Because here's the thing. Those guys aren't losing to UNLV very often. They're not losing to East Tennessee. Like, you're going to win those games because you, run this weird gimmick offense that nobody's prepared for, and you're equal in talent, if not better in talent than those schools. But every now and then you can beat at least 1 or 2 big boys that just, for some reason, have you have a great game, and they, in 1 week turnaround, really hard to prepare for, that kind of matchup.
Yeah.
And if you can win 2 conference games and 4 pay-for wins, that's bowl eligible.
Yeah, I mean, if you get Jeff Monken in there, and Monken is a fantastic
and I think Monken's more than just that gimmick offense guy. I think he could do more than that, but I think
he obviously knows the gimmick offense.
Yes, bring something like that to the SEC, and maybe every now and then you trip somebody up.
I like that idea. I mean, I really do.
Because playing a straight up, it's just not working. It's just, you're never going to do it. Every 5 or 6 years, you might get 2 SEC wins if Ole Miss is down, and that's who your cross rival is. If Tennessee or Missouri or South Carolina or Kentucky ever fall apart, they don't make a good hire after the next hire, and that's just trying to get bowl eligible, man.
Yeah.
That's playing 4 scrubs just to get bowl eligible.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's what I would do if I was that AD. I like playing AD. If I was the Vanderbilt's athletic director, there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, you understand.
Monken's the person I was thinking of. He's more gifted offensive mind than just running the triple option. I think he could open it up. And I do think there's a lot of local talent you could snag in Nashville and Tennessee. You just got to get them into school.
Yeah. I mean, I think you'd have a lot of people that want to come to school there anyway.
That's right.
And then if you just teach them this, like if they're not worried about, playing in the NFL or whatever, then, I mean, obviously you will have the ability to be able to teach them something like that. So, yeah, I like the idea. I think it's a good idea. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Let's see. I don't see anything that has popped up.
Nope, that's it. I got nothing.
Yeah, I think that's it. All right, well, that will do it for today's show. As always, go over to winningcureseverything.com. Make sure you are subscribed everywhere that you need to be, all the different live platforms and on the podcast. If you would, share the show out. Leave a nice review over at Apple Podcasts. And that's going to do it for today. You guys take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for checking out Winning Cures Everything. If you want to keep up with us, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Visit the website at winningcureseverything.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us at Winning Cures, at Gary WCE, or at Chris B. Giannini on Twitter. Share out the show, leave a nice review, and make sure to comment and tweet at us.